Well, I hope by now you realize that Diet Coke is my jam. That's my beverage of choice. But one thing you'll realize if you travel internationally is there is no Diet Coke outside the US. It's called Coca-Cola Light. So to help train you for your world travels, we're going to talk about Coca-Cola Light today. And the question I have for you is how much would you pay for Coca-Cola Light? Well, many of you, let's start with this. How many of you would be willing to pay $6 for one can of Coca-Cola Light? 0? Okay. So 0 takers. How many of you would be willing to pay $5 for a can of Coca-Cola Light? Oh, one person? All right. So now I have one person willing to pay $5 for Coca-Cola Light and 0 people willing to pay $6. So let's take it down to 4. Oh, we got a few more takers. 2 people. Awesome. What about $3? Oh, wow, that's a lot more than I thought. Wow, we're all the way over here. We got 5 people. And we keep going down. $2, $1. So there we have 6, and finally we have 8 people willing to buy Coca-Cola Light. So that's pretty exciting. So now that is what we just did is estimated demand curve. Now notice it's not completely straight, right? But we're going to just assume, well, that's our demand curve. Let's keep working with it without drawing the line. What we want to ask today is, well, what is surplus? Okay, we're trying to get to the notion of surplus. Well, let's assume that when you go to the store, you figure out that it's $3 to buy Coke. Okay, Coca-Cola Light. Well, let's find out what happens. So this person who is willing to pay $5, right? This person right here. How much do they have to pay? Well, they only had to pay, the price here is set at $3. So this person was willing to pay $5 but only have to pay $3, so they are now $2 happier. They get a surplus of $2. Well, what about this person that was willing to spend $4? Well, there's 2 people there, but one of them already is willing to pay $5, so we got that amount. This person was willing to spend $4, but they only had to do 3, so their surplus is 1. And all of these people here, they were willing to pay 3, and they had to pay 3, so they don't get any surplus because they paid the exact amount. So therefore, in this example, our surplus would be $3 for the consumer. And that's how we're going to calculate consumer surplus. So we can do it again. Let's suppose now that the price is $2. Guess I didn't draw that very straight the first time. To buy a Coca-Cola Light. Well, this first person was willing to pay $5, but now they only have to pay $2, so they're $3 as happy. This next person was willing to spend $4, but only has to spend $2, so they are $2 happy. This next group was willing to spend $3, but only had to spend $2, and there's 3 of those individuals, so this is $1 times 3, so their surplus is $3. Those people willing to pay 6, pay 6. So here our total surplus, or rather our consumer surplus, is 3 plus 2 plus 3, which is $8. Notice that when the price went down, consumer surplus went up. And so generically what we're going to do is when we draw our supply and demand, or draw our supply curve, or demand curve rather, so our demand curve is showing a willingness to pay. And so we get that demand curve, and if we set a price, this area in the demand curve is what we call consumer surplus. So the area above the price but below the demand curve is our willingness to pay. So in this example, how do we find that? Well, the area of a triangle, or what we call consumer surplus, is 1/2 base times the height. So our base is this amount right here, our quantity. Our height is that distance there. And we just find those numbers and multiply them and divide by 2. And that's how we find consumer surplus, and that's what consumer surplus is. So when I go abroad and I'm out there to buy my Coca-Cola Light, and I see it for $4, do I buy it? I do. I'm the person who's willing to pay $4 for it. And so I get no surplus. But if I find that restaurant that might sell it for only $2, then I'm much happier. My surplus increases.